and welcome back to this week's episode. Let's jump straight into the Astro updates. So, our updates this week, which technically it happened last week, but Venus stationed retrograde in Aries. Venus is the planet of love, and Aries is fire energy. So, if you recall, retrogrades are when the planet appears to be moving backwards from our perspective on Earth. And they are a great time to reflect and revisit past energies during the retrogrades. So Venus will be retrograde here all month, moving back into Pisces at the end of the month. But Venus being retrograde in Aries is a great time to rediscover yourself, kind of look at what stories you've been attached to that no longer describe who you are or want to be. And really letting go of any sort of limitations you have been allowing to keep you small. Spring is coming soon, and so is Aries season, so it's time to clear all of the cobwebs before we start planting those seeds. So let's get into today's episode. I want to redefine success. I would like to kind of strip away at the societal and social media driven definitions that tell us that success is about wealth or status or recognition. But what if success isn't a destination, but a state of alignment instead? Some of you may have noticed that Can I Just Say has a new podcast logo. This shift is really symbolic because when I started this podcast 2 months ago, I genuinely expected myself to quit. I didn't put much effort into creating a logo because I assumed this would end up like so many other of my forgotten projects. But here I am, still going. And I'm learning not to be a habitual giver-upper. For a long time, I struggled with confidence when sharing anything online. Subconsciously, I expected instant success, like a lot of us do, like going viral overnight. Consciously, I knew that wasn't realistic and probably not something my introverted self would be able to handle. But part of me was looking for proof that I was either doing an amazing job or completely failing. I craved external validation because I didn't trust my own judgment. How could I be successful? I couldn't imagine that for myself. The thing is, success doesn't start at the millionth degree. We've been conditioned to believe success is measured by outcomes. The job title, the 6-figure salary, the accolades. But what if we viewed success as something we step into rather than something we chase? Traditional success to me feels rigid. It defines a singular endpoint, and anything outside of that can feel like a failure. But from a more spiritual perspective, success is fluid. It's not just about external achievements, it's about alignment with your highest self and the vision you have for your life. So from a more mindfulness viewpoint, success can look like acting from your intuition, or choosing growth over stagnation, or letting go of fear and trusting the process. We often dismiss our own success because it doesn't look big enough. We believe our ideas or voices don't matter unless they reach millions. But the truth is, the moment you start, you've already succeeded, because most people never even take the first step. I have talked myself out of starting a podcast for years. When I first had the idea for this podcast a couple of years ago, I stressed myself out before I even started. I was caught up in how I'd make it work, how I'd make money from it, how I would stay relevant. I created more obstacles for myself than necessary. But in the past 8 or 9 months, I've done a lot of deep healing for myself around scarcity, success, and self-worth. I've realized that I don't need to force my impact. I just need to show up, share my voice, and trust that the right people will find what they need in my words. I also let go of the pressure to follow a rigid schedule. I still carve out time to create, but I no longer force myself to fit into a mold. We were never designed to fit into boxes anyways, but the organizational side of my Virgo self, it needed that schedule in mind. But now I follow my flow, and ironically, that's what allowed me to stay consistent. Persistence tells me to hustle, but my free spirit tells me to surrender. Somehow I have found balance between both. And funny enough, when I look back, I see how my episodes naturally align with cosmic events and astrological shifts without me even planning for it. It's proof that alignment is a form of success in itself. Speaking of seeds from the beginning of the podcast, I want you to think of success like a plant. The moment you plant the seed, it has already begun being a plant. It doesn't need to be a towering redwood to be considered successful. Every stage of its growth is success. Take my experience as an example. I've wanted to have a podcast for years, but I never could pinpoint down what I wanted to talk about. It's because I tried to force myself to talk about things that I wasn't actually interested in. Now, I'm just sharing my thoughts, feelings, and experiences for all of you to hear and connect with. To me, I am already successful. Each new podcast is just another step of my success. So often we see success as a finish line. If I just become this title or earn this amount, then I'll be successful. But instead of seeing success as a Mount Everest to climb, I like to view it as an expansive landscape. The more I explore and expand outwards, so the more podcasts I come out with, the more my success unfolds. The moment I step into it, I get to decide how I want to nurture it. Ask yourself this: if you wrote a book and had it printed, would you only consider yourself successful if it became a bestseller? Or would you see the act of writing, finishing, and publishing as success itself? Success doesn't demand that you jump through hoops. It shows up the moment you feel fulfillment, growth, or accomplishment. One of the biggest ways that we block success for ourselves is by attaching it to a specific outcome. When we expect success to look a certain way, we limit how it can actually show up for us. So financial abundance may not come from the career you think it should. Your greatest impact might come from an idea you have yet to have. This is why so many people have breakthroughs when they finally surrender. Success was never something to chase, only something to allow. Success also doesn't have to be grand to be meaningful. For some, success is getting a promotion, but for others, it's feeling safe, raising a healthy family, or finally prioritizing your well-being. Thinking, I will be successful when, often blinds us to the success that is unfolding right now. I will be successful if I lose 50 pounds makes you miss the success of losing your first 10. Or, I will be successful when I have my dream job makes you overlook all of the skills you've built to get there. You are already successful because you are in the process of becoming. So let's try something together. Wherever you are, I want you to take a deep breath. Okay, now can you tap your chin 3 times for me? Good, okay. Now inhale deeply, hold it for 3 seconds, and exhale it with a sigh. Now that you're more present with me, I want you to ask yourself, what have I done recently that I haven't given myself credit for? It can be something as small as starting a project or setting a boundary or learning something new. We want to look at this without judgment here. So just acknowledging something that you have done that you have not given yourself credit for. I don't want you to get into that thinking of, well, I did this, but it could have been better. We're not here to make any sorts of judgments on what you have done recently. We're just here to acknowledge something that you have not given yourself credit for yet. Now, I want you to say to yourself, I am already successful. Every aligned action I take creates more success for me. Every step forward no matter how small, is proof that I am successful. And your challenge this week is to write down 3 things that you've done recently that prove that you are already successful. If you're feeling bold, I would love for you to share them with me. I'll be posting mine on my socials, so I'd love to see yours too. And to create sort of a habit for this, I'd like you to try and do this weekly. Kind of like a recap to your week. Like, what have I done recently that I haven't given myself credit for? The more you acknowledge your success, the more you step into it. You don't have to wait for some big moment to feel successful. Success isn't something that you chase. It's something you choose to see in yourself right now. I hope that this episode maybe helped you look at success in a different light and not see yourself as such a failure, because a lot of the times we haven't failed, we are just redirecting ourselves. I know for myself, being what I called myself a habitual giver-upper. I don't like to call myself a quitter. I say that I habitually give up on things. But recognizing that even though I am giving up on things that maybe I set out for and had all good intentions on, it's successful in that I have redirected myself and found that that doesn't align with me or how I'm feeling or what I want to create for my life. So it is allowing me to make space for the things that I do want to create, like this podcast. And I'm having a blast doing it, and I feel successful already. Thank you so much for joining me. I hope to see you next week. Take care.